there was water in that basement. I grew up there.
All right, well, we certainly take your concerns seriously, as you saw the last time you were here.
Because if this does get put in and my garage gets wet again, I am suing the town. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Duly noted. Thank you very
Madam
much.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Please do.
Sir, the two variances that he's requesting are a variance regarding how much frontage is on the road and the size of the property. Is your problem strictly on the fact that if there's building on there, it will increase flooding to
Yeah.
your house?
Yeah, that-
Or is it because he will create a lot that you deem is too small?
It's a lot that's too small, okay? And second of all, it's gonna push the water upstream again. That whole property floods. It floods right to 647 Ransom Road to the gray house. And they say there's never been a flooding problem. Bullshit, okay? I grew up there my whole life, okay? There's been flooding there for years and it's gotten worse. Like I said, you're gonna put a house there and then the town's gonna be responsible when the house is flooding, just like they were on Siebert Road.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Mr. Ludwig, you are at 661?
Yes.
You said? How many houses away from 647 is that?
One house.
Okay, so there's one in between.
No, there's 647 and there's us.
Oh, so you're directly.
We're right next door.
Gotcha. Okay.
And like I said, when Ray used to own that house, that always flooded. I was told, no, you could never put a house there. In the 80s, I came here to find out about it, and they said, no, it's floodplain. So I'd like to know how things are being changed again.
Okay. Thank you. Come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ray Witzlaben. I'm representing Paul Witzlaben, who lives and owns 647 Ransom Road. So you're asking for a variance for 647 Ransom Road, and the owner of it, who lives there, is vehemently opposed to it, FYI. My son, Paul Witzlaben, purchased this property from Lionel Roop in 2019. As you know, Mr. Roop did not properly subdivide the property at sale. It's my understanding he was informed by Mr. Fashone that he would have to get this subdivision in order to sell the property, and he never did. Subsequently, the town had to take Mr. Roop to court. More expense for the taxpayers to properly subdivide the property. Unfortunately, when my son bought the home, shortly thereafter he needed a new roof. He tried to get a new roof. He hired Joe Christ to put up a new roof. Because of Mr. Roop not properly subdividing the property, there was a flag on the property. He couldn't get a new roof put on. So here he is, the new homeowner, bad roof. He could lose the whole house because he can't get a new roof on the house. Eventually, with the cooperation of the town board and many machinations and a lot of red tape, he was able to put the roof on, but it was a struggle. Then Mr. Roop tried to sell the swampland to Paul, saying that he had a buyer for the wetland, which was a wood shop, and that there'd be a lot of noise. He offered it to him for $20,000 with the thought that you don't want to live next to a wood shop. Maybe he should have said it was a go-kart track and a Ferris wheel, and the World's Fair is coming to Lancaster. As has already been pointed out, Mr. Roop is a tax scofflaw. He owed and still owes $10,000 to Erie County. He owes at least, well, almost $1,000 to the town in school taxes. So apparently his plan to get out of this tax issue is to find a sucker to purchase the property and build a house on swampland. If it's a swamp and you fill it in, the water's got to go somewhere. The civil engineer he cites is really good at flooring. He's not an environmental engineer, so the letter to me is totally worthless. I don't know how in good conscience you can grant a variance to somebody who's owed the town and the county thousands of dollars in taxes. As far as this zoning requirement with the 300 feet, guess what? The town board thoughtfully passed this zoning ordinance, and it's required for new construction. If you'd listen to Mr. Larigo, he'll bring us back 200 years where there's no zoning, and you can do anything you want, wherever the heck you want. There was a reason they did this. It was to prevent cramped development that you see in other towns. People want to live in the town to avoid such cramped development. If you want homes close together with the possibility of flooding, you can live in West Seneca. I can't imagine anyone would knowingly and reasonably purchase a wetland to construct a ranch home. The cost involved to doing this properly and in hiring an environmental engineering firm to plan the mitigation and the cost of the mitigation and the cost of the engineering would make such a project financially unfeasible to anybody who knows what they're doing. I was a senior project manager at Empire State Development for 38 years. I've seen many projects where there are wetlands that had to be remediated, mainly by large companies that wanted to expand their property and they had to mitigate some wetland. It's super, super expensive if you do it right. If you grade it and put some dumpy fill in there, guess where the water's gonna go? It's gonna go on the adjacent property. My son's septic is 10 feet from the property line. So if you fill in the swamp, my son's septic will get flooded. And you can, as you know, that's 15 grand for a new septic. I can't believe the flooding situation in the neighborhood wouldn't be exacerbated by granting this variance. This would lower the property values in the whole neighborhood so that we can build one ranch home and get the taxes from a ranch home. If Mr. Larigo paid his taxes, if Mr. Larigo's client would pay his taxes, that would save everybody a lot of time, trouble, and money. Anyway, I respectfully implore you to deny this variance request for the overall good of the town and for the neighborhood. Our hope is the town would take this ownership of this property, preserve the integrity of a well-established neighborhood, and be a good steward of this wetland. So, thank you very much. I have the tax information that he owes, the $10,000. I printed it off the website today, but he's already admitted that his client is a tax scofflaw. So if you want to enable this, approve it.
Mr. Winselbaum? Sir?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to ask you about you mentioned that your son's property was flagged and he couldn't get a roof.
I'm sorry, my son's property is fine.
You said there was a flag on his property, so he couldn't get a new roof?
I'm sorry, yeah, he put a new roof on the property, on the home.
He did. What was the problem?
It was a bad roof. He's a new home buyer.
Sir, when your son purchased the property and it wasn't subdivided correctly, what was the issue? What was the flag of why he couldn't do construction on his home?
Because Mr. Roop did not subdivide the property properly. That's why there was a red flag.
Matt, is that
It was
accurate
Mr.
statement?
Roop's problem.
That's correct.
If he'd have subdivided it properly, there would be no red flag, and he wouldn't have had to wait months to put a new roof on. So this is the kind of person, you know, if you want to enable this type of behavior that costs the town thousands in legal fees and all kinds of shenanigans. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. Ma'am, come on up.
My name
Good
is
evening.
Diane Lind, and I live at 635 Ransom Road, next door neighbor to our wetland, and also then my next door neighbor, Paul. My neighbors across the street, Lori and Dan. My other neighbors up the street with Daryl and his parents. And I just wanted to pass this map to show you that this is a wetland map from 2004 in my records. I have quite a few records to show you, but I've only got something to talk about today, 331 words. But here is the map from 2004. Here is a current map, and you'll see the neighbors.
Thank you.
I also have colored pictures, if you'd like to see what started kind of like from 2003, the different variations of the property, from the wetland to the flooding, to the additional flooding, and then the dumping of material from Macon to the property, the wetland, in order to build it up. And it can show you what has happened. I'd like to pass this also to you. So, I also have a brochure, if you're interested, and it's from the U.S. Corps of Engineers. And there is a Section 10 of the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1899. Lionel Roop violated that act. In addition to that, there's Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. He violated that also. By not going to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers back in 2019, he violated their monitoring of all different areas of wetland, because that's their job. So during this time, he allowed Macon to come through from 2019 to 2000, or back to 2003, dumping illegally massive amounts of garbage dirt to make an actual entranceway or a driveway. And he did this across from Lori and Dan's property. And then you'll see he tried twice to sell the property, and at that point he was having difficulty. He still had Macon come by and fill the land in. And again, you'll see the different situations in the picture book, because it just shows you what I have entertained since 1976. So I've been there 48 years. I've seen the problems, and they are continuing to increase. And at this point, back on July 11th, the town board did deny the variance that Lionel Roop looked for, and we were all very extremely happy about that. So again, Lionel was not happy, so he pleaded to the zoning board of appeals in order to let's rock the boat again, because he's got to get rid of this property somehow. He illegally sold that piece of property to a gentleman back in the 2019. And when he did that, I saw that man out in the swamp area, the wetland, actually putting markers around, setting up for his house. As a good neighborly neighbor, I walked over to him and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, he says, "I just bought this property." I said, I said, "Well, who did you buy it from?" "Well, Lionel Roop." I said, "Well, did you know that this is a wetland?" and that you're not allowed to build upon a wetland. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "You can go to the U.S. Army Corps and get information from there." The man immediately left the area. He stopped immediately. There is one picture in there of the actual flood, and I have a mark on there where he was building the house. You can't see where the building markers are because they're all underwater, okay? What can I say? This may be 331 more words, but I'm Diane Lind, 635 Ransom Road. I don't want my house and my neighbors' houses to be flooded out. We've had a lot of issues with this area. And if you grant Lionel Roop this variance just because he needs it to get rid of this monkey off his back of selling this property, don't fall for his intentions. I oppose this. I oppose this vehemently because I am on the lowest side of Ransom Road, and I have spent much money improving our property, improving our basement flooding problems, improving our ditch area. We've tried everything. So I plead to you to please deny this variance. Thank you.
Ms. Lind, I'm going to echo the question that was made to one of the previous
Yes.
neighbors. If this were not a subdivided property and it were still 3 acres and they were building 300 feet from the road, as the new zoning law requires, we wouldn't be here today.
If they subdivide or didn't subdivide.
If they didn't subdivide, there would be...
It, either or, it's a wetland, and it will remain a wetland, as you see from that particular map, 2004, 2024. Look at, nothing's changed. It's only getting a little more extreme. Look at what happened down in Florida just yesterday and today. Milton came through and wiped out so much. Look at what happened with Helene that just came through. Look at the different cities and towns that were wiped out. You gotta look at the change and climate change and everything all together. The water from that creek goes from, I believe it's at the Cayuga Creek tributary. I think so. But it comes down from that area and it does increase. And if we get floods, it comes with a vengeance. And I have had my swimming pool in the backyard completely flooded. I've had the entire half of my backyard flooded. The side along the Erie Street railroad tracks, completely flooded. I feel like I'm almost in a moat, and I've got water all around me. And that is every time it rains. And when it rains really severely, I pray. It's scary. It's scary.
I understand. You understand that our focus is, should it be subdivided to allow 2 properties?
Sure. And if you subdivide, what are they going to do? Put a house on it, and it's going to replace the water, because they'll have to build up the actual mounding, the area. And where's that water from the creek going to come down once it really floods? It's going to come and spill over into my yard, into Daryl's yard, into Lori and Dan's yard, and all the way up the street. There are quite a few other houses that they're not here tonight. But we will not benefit from allowing this variance to happen. Zip.
All right. Anyone else have a question?
Can you do the subdivision without the variance?
Hold on 1 second, please. Anybody on board?
No.
Okay.
But he has,
Sir, yeah, we got to ask you to come back up and,
Well, when she's done.
okay.
okay.
I think we're all set. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
good, good.
And I'll bring your pictures.
Okay. Do you want the rest of them to see the pictures?
Yeah, I haven't looked at them. I'm going to pass them around.
Okay, very good, thank you.
The problem is the variance to go against the town board's wishes to be able to build on the property. The subdivision is moot. That should have been done in 2019. The problem's the variance to go against the wishes of the town board and to preserve Lancaster as it is, not build houses crammed together. So, keep in mind that you fill a swamp, the water's got to go somewhere.
I have a question for Matt.
Please.
Matt, we briefly touched on it before, this gentleman's son at 647 Ransom Road. Are there any more red flags, or would allowing the subdivision allow any, does he have any more issues of building at 647, the current owner?
Well, there's still.
So it's not subdivided properly, correct? I understand that. If he one day wants to build an attached garage or put up a fence or do anything, will the current owner face any negative ramifications from the town if this is not subdivided properly?
I'd have to say yes. It's an illegally split parcel of land.
So if the current owner wanted to build a patio or a gazebo or something, he would face
the town
he would
building
face
department
red
can
tape
issue a
the
building
same way
permit.
that he faced the red tape with the roof.
I don't know how we can issue a building permit on a parcel that's in violation and in litigation with the court system.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's my response. If you look at the tax map that I gave you, the first gentleman who came up lives next door to the 647. You could see the size of his lot. He's got one of the smaller lots on the street. The interesting thing about the second gentleman who was so critical about everybody is his son owns that house. He did not tell you that there was flooding in that basement. Now, he's critical about Lionel Roop. He's entitled to his opinion. But we're not raising this land. I mean, Metzger Engineering, I'm sure, Mike Metzger has been here numerous times. He's been, through all the towns. He's been a practicing engineer for decades. He wouldn't be able to give you that map and give you that letter if there was wetlands that interfered with the construction of this house. And he didn't say, and you can look at the elevation survey, he's not raising property. He's using a ditch to divert water. What these people unfortunately don't understand is there's an improvement if, in fact, the town engineers were to approve Metzger's plan. There's an improvement because you're ditching the water away from the neighbors. So, again, we went to the expense of having an engineer to see if we could resolve this matter and try to satisfy the neighbors. They're entitled, to what they want to say. But I've been to a lot of these meetings. It's a question of what information people have. And that's why I produce Mike Metzger, Metzger Engineering, and the survey map. So if they have water on the property, Metzger is showing you how the water's diverted. The individual at 647, I told you, Lionel Roop swore to me he never had water in the basement, and I didn't hear that from the individual whose son owns the house. So there's outside water obviously there. This is a solution. But this isn't really your problem. This isn't really why I'm in front of you. I'm in front of you to get 2 variances, and you have to look at these 5 criteria. Now, you can look at the criteria of whether, there's a detriment to the neighborhood. That really, if you look at the law and you look at the sections, what that's all about is, are we going to create some kind of impasse where we're totally out of conformity with the neighborhood? And you look at this tax map. I don't know where there's I'm not sure why the zoning changed in June of 2006 or 2022. I'm not sure where you have Ransom Road. Ransom Road continues on. Maybe there's some other portion of Ransom Road, but this is all built up, and there's not one lot that conforms. Now, if that subdivision map isn't approved, that minor subdivision isn't approved, that gentleman's son has an issue. It needs to be approved. He needs to go get it approved if we can't get it approved, because his house is stuck in that same situation. So, look, I understand what you face when you face neighbors in your community and neighbors who are passionate about what their own property and protecting their property. But truthfully, when I show you Metzger Engineering, I didn't come here empty-handed to just talk about it. When I have an engineer go out there and do the engineering, create the elevation maps, create how he would be able to put a house on that property and be able to convince your town engineers. That's what we have. We're able to divert the water, not create more problems for these people. We're not raising land so that water flows outside our property. That would be illegal. We couldn't build a house on the property to flow water onto neighbors. They're just not accepting that, but that is the reality of it. And so, again, I'm here to ask for 2 variances. We fit those 5 criteria. It's a balancing act, the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the neighbors. So you've got 3 neighbors who, aren't happy with flooding. Certainly, we didn't cause the flooding. And reality is, we can do something about the flooding. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, sir.
My name's Dan Konechko. I live across the street from the lot you're speaking of at 648 Ransom Road. Now, when they talked about moving the water and alleviating the water problem, what this water's going to do is come into my yard, because that drainage ditch that comes from across the street at the lot you're talking about comes under Ransom Road, and that ditch goes through the end of my property, which, by the way, is more than 3 acres and more than 300 feet of frontage. I already have flooding there when it rains hard and in the spring. I get a lake that comes off of that drainage ditch that's 50 to 100 feet wide, and that water is 18 inches deep. I have ducks that swim around there in the spring. Putting a house across the street is going to create more water coming through that ditch that's going to go nowhere but into my yard. So I think that's unacceptable.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Guess not, thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Okay. Matt, has the town engineer looked at this at any point along the way that you know of?
No, there was nothing presented for him to review.
Can I ask a question to Matt?
Absolutely.
Matt, now, so we're looking at a variance, just granting a variance. That's what this board is looking to do. We're not talking about a house. That's a whole nother process, correct? So if they wanted to build something on that property, they would have to go through other hurdles to clear that before, this isn't determining that, yeah, you're going to build a house, you're good to build a house. They still got to go through other steps if we approve this variance, correct?
The planning board.
They got to go to the planning board, they got to look at the plan, all that.
We're just doing the variance, that's it.
So, because what these residents are saying is very concerning, and I get it, I don't have that issue, but I would hate to have that issue. But the question at hand is the variance. It's making it tough for the resident at 647 Ransom, and it's going to make it tough for this land that's up for sale. So if there are going to be issues with the house, I think that would go more towards the planning board on how they would make that so the drainage won't affect the neighbors, correct? I know
As
I
it's
spent a lot of
explained,
time, sorry.
yes. But that, I believe that's an answer that perhaps our town attorney can direct this board as far as process.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to remind you, this began in October of 2018. 30 days after a filing of a deed was done at Erie County Clerk's Office, in which the town assessor had to put an SBL number towards it and place a value toward it. Had nothing to do with approvals, had nothing to do with sizes or whether a house would go there, whether it was wetlands. It had nothing to do with it. The town assessor's job is to assign a tax parcel number to a property that's filed at Erie County Clerk's Office and assess it a value, regardless of all the parameters. It was 30 days after the filing, after the parcel was created, this violation had gone out.
Gotcha. Jennifer,
So tonight, if the variances are granted this evening, the next step is for Mr. Roop to go to the planning board to finish the subdivision application for approval, just to legally create the separate lot.
gotcha.
That's
So it's
all
not
the
even,
board would do.
we're not talking about building anything, it's just,
Correct.
we're looking to
Subdivision.
make the subdivision.
If,
After that, if somebody wants to build a house, it's a whole nother hurdle of things they gotta go through.
correct, they would have to apply for a building permit through the building department and
'Cause
all of those requirements.
They could take a look at this lot at the planning board and say, well, how are you gonna build a house? It's gonna affect everyone
But the
around.
application before the planning board is not to build a house, it's simply to create the lot.
So it'd have to go to buildings? Okay,
And there's no application currently filed, I believe, to build any house.
Right.
so it would have to go through a lot of review then, before you could build a house.
Especially if there are wetlands on
Yeah,
on the property.
okay.
And if there were ever future application to build a house, it would be reviewed by the building department and by the town engineer.
Gotcha. So the matter at hand we're looking at is just the variance to create that parcel. That's it.
Subdivision.
That is all that is before you, is the
But to go back
variance
to
on
the
the
planning
lot.
board.
Yeah, for it to
then
go
they
back.
Do their
Okay.
final reviews to potentially approve it.
Gotcha.
Because they still have to approve a subdivision.
Potentially, if they don't get a subdivision, 647 can't do any work at their house.
Yep.
Because it's a non-conforming illegal lot.
I'm sorry, Josh, because it's what? Or Dave?
647 will not be able to do any work at their house, Matt just said, because it's a non-conforming property. It's an illegal property as it stands. So if he were to put up a pergola, whatever it may be, he will not be able to do it because it's a non-conforming
Okay,
property.
gotcha, thanks. Okay, so just to sum up, we are here tonight to decide whether or not to grant a variance to divide the property. If we approve this variance, then Mr. Roop will go to the planning board, and I think that's where it needs to go, in my opinion. So, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. I'm going to make a motion then. Whereas, on May 29, 2024, Lionel Roop Jr. and his designee, Ralph Larigo Esquire, submitted an application for area variances to the Town of Lancaster Zoning Board of Appeals in connection with property located at 647 Ransom Road. And whereas the ZBA reviewed Mr. Roop's application and held a public hearing on July 11, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. And whereas during the public hearing, several community members voiced their concerns with the proposed variance request, including those related to stormwater impacts, drainage, and flooding. And whereas hearing no further comments from the community, the public hearing was duly closed. And whereas only 6 of the 7 members of the Zoning Board of Appeals were present for the July 11, 2024 meeting, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals engaged in deliberation and called for a vote to approve or deny Mr. Roop's application, and whereas after due consideration, the 6 present members of the Zoning Board of Appeals voted 3 in favor and 3 against approving the application, resulting in the default denial of the application pursuant to Town Law 267A 13B and 267A 8, which took effect on September 12, 2024. And whereas after due consideration, whereas on September 12, 2024, the Zoning Board of Appeals voted unanimously to hold a rehearing on the application pursuant to Town Law 267A-12. And whereas on October 10, 2024, after proper notice, the Zoning Board of Appeals held a rehearing to review the default denial and to consider whether such determination, which has not been previously reheard, should be reversed, modified, or annulled upon unanimous vote. And whereas the ZBA finds that the rights vested in persons acting in good faith reliance upon the reheard order, decision, or determination will not be prejudiced thereby. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town of Lancaster Zoning Board of Appeals that, for the reasons set forth in the attached rehearing decision, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants, with conditions, the following area variances. A variance of 1 acre relief for 647 Ransom Road and 2.06 acres relief for 0 Ransom Road from the requirements of Chapter 400 Zoning, Section 13, Subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster, which requires a minimum lot area per dwelling unit of 3 acres. A variance of 142.60 feet relief for the 647 Ransom Road and 185 feet relief for 0 Ransom Road from the requirements of Chapter 400 Zoning, Section 13, Subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster, which requires minimum lot width of 300 feet if abutting a dedicated street. This approval is subject to the following conditions. A, any development of any kind on the newly created lot, as highlighted in yellow on the survey attached to the rehearing decision as Exhibit A, 0 Ransom Road, shall be subject to site plan review by the Town of Lancaster Planning Board and approval by the Town of Lancaster Town Board. No building permit shall be issued until such approval is obtained, including for single-family residential construction. I'm going to say that again. No building permit shall be issued until such approval is obtained, including for single-family residential construction. B, such application for site review must include a drainage analysis and plan, which shall be reviewed by the town engineer. C, such drainage analysis and plan shall adhere to the drainage or stormwater pollution mitigation measures proposed by the town engineer. D, consistent with any requirements by the town engineer, the applicant or his successors in interest upon property transfer shall obtain all necessary and appropriate drainage easements prior to any development activities on the 0 Ransom Road lot. The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby directs that this resolution be filed in the office of the town clerk immediately. The town clerk shall also mail a copy of this resolution to the applicant and other interested parties. This resolution is effective immediately.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Michaely. Roll call vote?
Mr. Michaely?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
With sympathy for the current resident at 647 and faith in our planning board, I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Mr. Roblewski?
Yes.
Mr. Zelag?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes.
Adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know it's not an easy path what you have to go through. I appreciate it.
Pretty complicated, but thank you, Mr. Larico. Oh,
You have that
do
one,
we
those
the
pictures?
pictures? Yeah. Oh. There she is.
Next week, I'll be 70 years old. Previously, when I'm 71, 72, 73. Okay?
Can't wait.
Happy
All
birthday.
right, thank you.
Okay, well, that was only number one, folks. Diane, would you, pardon?
No.
Diane, would you read us the second case, please?
Second case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Jeffrey Zika, 200 Schwartz Road, Lancaster, New York, for 3 variances for the purpose of constructing a residential accessory structure on premises owned by the petitioner at 200 Schwartz Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit: A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a residential accessory structure 18 feet 2 inches tall. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum building height of an accessory structure of 16 feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 2-foot 2-inch variance. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a residential accessory structure 10 feet from a lot. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a minimum accessory location from a lot line of 15 feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 5-foot variance. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 2,112 square foot residential accessory structure. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum accessory structure size of 1,250 square feet. The petitioner therefore requests an 862 square foot variance.
Thank you. Do we have a representative here from, thank you. Good evening. I'm going to start with your name and address, please, for the record.
Jeff Zika, 200 Schwartz Road. And I got letters here sent by my one neighbor, the only one that really going to see the property. And he says no complaints about it, no of the 10-foot variance or the height difference. Matter of fact, there is an older dwelling behind the house, and it's like 20 feet tall. This is only 18 foot 2. So, would you guys like to see his letter?
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll share.
Sorry, thanks.
Which? He's at 194 Schwartz Road.
This is actually a picture of the neighbor's property and where we want to put it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Was that all 3 of them?
Okay, for the record, this letter is from Gerald Kuntz of
He's my neighbor next door.
194 Schwartz Road, saying his yard abuts the side lot line where the petitioners are looking to put their pole barn, and he has no objections to any of the variances that they're requesting. Thank you for providing that. That's real helpful. Okay, can you describe your project for us, please?
Excuse me, I'm behind the
Oh,
hearing.
sorry. Can you
I got
describe
hearing aids.
describe your project? Describe the pole barn?
Oh, it's going to be a 32 by 48. I want to put a lean-to on the one side facing my pond for like a patio. That's the reason the square footage is pretty large. I never knew that you got to add the patio, or lean-to that is.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but it's going to be used just for my antique cars I got. At the old barn, I'm not going to keep those cars in there. I need a much better structure for that. And I've also bought farm equipment to work on the property, you know, tractor and this and that, so I need some room for that, all my new tools.
And you understand no commercial activity can take place?
No, that's just, it's my hobby,
Okay,
or our hobby.
good.
We both own cars.
Good for you guys. All right, and the material, is it going to be sided?
Yeah, I got pictures of one that looks similar to it.
Perfect.
It's a pole barn, metal roofing, metal siding. two-tone in color. That's not the proper color, but it's gonna match our house and whatever else is out there.
Thank you.
You can get them over those.
Anything else that you want to tell us about the project?
We have spoken to several other neighbors, and there was positive feedback.
Yeah, there was a few large pine trees. The reason I didn't want to go at 15 foot, I don't want to cut down these giant ones. We may have to remove some of the smaller ones, but that's not the issue. The big ones they've been there forever. You know, this was my parents' house at one time. We just purchased it about a year and a half ago.
Oh, okay.
So we just got to fix it up a little bit.
Nice.
And certain things I don't want to take down.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, we always like to see preservation of trees and greenery whenever possible. Okay, let's start with Mr. Storr. Any questions for these folks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions.
Okay, Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions.
Mr. Wroblewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
And Mr. Zelat?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had one question, just for clarification on this, to this picture. This is your neighbor's house this way, is that correct? I'm just trying to get my bearing on where is your 10-foot, is that shed there? Is that the barn?
Okay. This is my house over here.
This is your neighbor's house, correct?
Right.
Correct. Yeah, he would be over here. The house would be over here. You're looking,
So you're
this is
facing,
his
it's
back.
facing that way?
This is his backyard.
Okay. Where is this shed on this picture? Is it the barn or is it the shed?
No, this is the shed.
Well, that shed is a chicken coop.
So it's going this way,
Yeah,
correct?
that's-
That's the reference?
That's a chicken coop, yeah, which is that shed.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 10 feet off of that property line?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then right in front of
And
that
right
is-
behind that is the old barn.
Old barn.
So there's really no blocking any view because that was always here.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zelat. Mr. Michaeli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when I first looked at this, I noticed you have 12 and a half acres, and 100, it starts off as only 110-foot frontage. The only concern I had was that neighbor, the one who you just gave the letter, because you are putting it right at only 10 feet from their property, so you've taken care of that. And I can see, my first thought was, why would they put it 10 feet from the neighbor when they have 12 and a half acres? But if I'm looking at this correctly, you do have a lake or a pond behind there, right? So there's really not a lot of room.
Correct.
So with that said, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michaeli. I have no questions either. Anyone in the audience like to speak before the board about this request? All right, there being none,
Could I have your name, ma'am?
Kathleen Zika.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Storr.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that this area variance for a single-family residence according to part 617.5 C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules, and Regulations is a type 2 action and has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, is therefore not subject to a seeker review, that no undesirable change will be provided in the character of the neighborhood by granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be granted by the area variance relief sought, because neighbors approve of the variance and construction of said barn.
Thank you.
And that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance is not substantial, that the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is not self-created, that this board has taken into consideration the benefits to the applicant if the variance relief sought is granted as weighted against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by granting of such grant, or by such grant. That within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the absolute minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
I'll second.
Is there something about? No business.
And that no commercial enterprise other than those permitted by Chapter 400 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster will be conducted on the present premises.
I'll still second.
Okay, motion, Mr. Storr, second, Mr. Michaely. Thank you both, and roll call vote, please.
Mr. Michaely.
Yes.
Mr. Storr.
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans.
Yes.
Mr. Roblewski.
Yes.
Mr. Zalak.
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli.
Yes,
Approved.
your project is approved. You will meet with contact the building department, and they will direct you from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Thank you. When you're ready, will you read us the third case, please?
Third case considered by the zoning board of appeals is that of the petition of Michael Nichols, 540 Town Line Road, Lancaster, New York, for 2 variances for the purpose of constructing a residential accessory structure on premises owned by the petitioner at 540 Town Line Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 2,280 square foot residential accessory structure. Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum accessory structure size of 1,250 square feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 1,030 square foot variance. A variance for the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a residential accessory structure 20 feet 2 inches tall. Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum building height of an accessory structure of 16 feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 4-foot 2-inch variance.
Thank you. And do we have the representative from 540 Town Line?
Good evening. Mike Nichols, 540 Town Line Road.
Mary Nichols, 540 Town Line Road.
You said Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, tell us about your project.
Yeah, so I'm looking to build 40 wide by 48 deep. Has an 8-foot lean-to on it with this concrete to put a picnic bench or whatnot, some furniture there. And I've accumulated so much stuff over the last 25, 30 years. I've got nowhere to put it. And buying the house in Lancaster, I want to keep the town pristine. I have a serious case of OCD. My lawn has to be perfect. Everything's got to be perfect. I got tractors, I got snowmobiles, zero-turn lawnmowers, quads. It all has to have a place. I can't have it sitting outside. I don't want it to be an eyesore. And I want everything under the same roof. Keep it right.
Okay. Do you have anything to add, that you want to add?
He's buying a boat, too. He forgot that.
Okay. You know what, I'm looking for the letter, which I managed to lose already.
You gave me 2 copies.
Gave you mine, okay. Okay, we have a letter from your neighbor Karen Perillo, 34. Has she spoken to you about her concerns?
No, she came over, introduced herself to me, and we chatted, and that was pretty much it.
Okay. She asked that her letter and the letter from her attorney be read out loud, but I'm not going to take that kind of time. I will just summarize. She says, in principle, she thinks your request is reasonable and she doesn't have any objections. But she would like to request that you consider moving the structure to the north side of your property, since her house is being directly impacted, which is to the south. And she would like the structure to remain for residential purposes only, which we all know is a requirement.
So she's right, she's just to the south of me. And if you were to walk out the house and you turn, her house is right there. And we're talking way in the back. You will never even see this structure from the street. Because the way, if you're heading, let's say you're heading north, or excuse me, south on Town Line from Broadway, when you come up to the property, it just kind of goes up like this. I mean, the yard is bone dry because all the water just comes down to the front. Then you got the house, and you won't even be able to see anything in the back. As far as hers goes, I was gonna move it towards the north, but I don't want to be right on the property line. I want to be away from the property line. I want to be at least 20, 25 feet away from it, but way back, so that it's not even near her, you know. So yeah, I definitely want to do what she says, but I'm going to be way in the back, and I don't know, it's pretty far back, so.
Does she know that?
We didn't know, we just talked briefly, but she didn't say, where are you putting it, or what do you do? She didn't say anything, and I didn't bring it up to her because she didn't ask. I didn't think she cared. So, yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Okay, excellent.
Sure.
All right, then we're going to open this up to the board for questioning, starting with Mr. Tillmans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, just to be clear, based on what Mrs. Perillo mentioned, so you have your original plan, is it on the south line? South of, this is the south?
Yep.
So you're okay with moving it to this north line?
Yeah, well,
and then just 20 feet off, or keeping it?
Yeah, I'm gonna go way over. She's over here.
She's over here, yeah, I think her house is set back a little bit further from yours, if I'm looking at.
Pretty close, yeah, there you go, we're split
So
over
here's
here,
your, yeah, so I mean, hers is a little bit back, a little further, maybe that's
Yeah,
your
I can
concern.
bring it back here and bring it over.
Bring it over this way more?
I can, sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's what she wants, sure, I can accommodate that, because it's not built yet.
Yeah.
So.
And you don't foresee any issue with that, Matt, do you? I mean, if that's changed, the location of it?
No.
As long as we're not getting too close to the property line? Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tillmans and Mr. Rubluski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rubluski. Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do got one question. You're saying you're going to go to the way back. Your property is 417 feet deep. Are you going to the back line?
No, I'm not gonna go, can I walk up to you?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't.
So you're roughly back here?
Yeah, I'm gonna be back in here somewhere.
You're going to be somewhere back there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how far over you guys want it to go.
Well, that's what this is, her markup was going 20 feet. That was only concern, is that?
Yeah, sure, I can bring it over more. I mean, that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely, thank you.
No further questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zelak. Mr. Michaeli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would guess that you'll be at least 300 feet back from the road, because your lot is 417, and where you're eyeballing it looks like it's about 3/4 of the way.
Yeah.
Your lot's only 100 feet wide, but you're actually surrounded on all three sides by a 55-acre parcel. So in between you and the neighbor, the one who wrote the letter, you're actually not contiguous to her. There's the parcel that surrounds you on all three sides. And on the south side, I don't know how wide it is, probably only 20 or 30 feet. So you're not right on top of her. However, being that you seem to be very accommodating here, along with her request, and I can see what she's saying, because on the other side, there's absolutely nothing for 55 acres. Would you be willing to make it a condition that you would not make it, I don't want to force you all the way to the other side, but what if we approved it, but made a condition that it would be not closer than 50 feet from, your parcel's 100 feet, so what if we said it would be at least halfway through to say that a condition, can we do this? I don't see why not. If we make it a condition that the pole barn would not be, would be a minimum of 50 feet from the south lot line?
I understand that. My question for you would be with that is, why? Neither of the variants have anything to do with the property line. I understand we're trying to be accommodating to neighbors, but I don't think that's our job. If he's not encroaching on her property by the law,
or by our zoning codes, why would we,
Right.
Yeah.
why would we do anything on that? He's being very accommodating, he's being very respectful.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't want to set a precedent where it's, hey, you know what, this lady doesn't like it, let's change the zoning.
And I wouldn't have done it except for the fact that there's 55 acres, that there's nothing all around. So we could take it on your word if you're going to tell us that you're not going to put it. By code, you can't put it closer than.
Yeah, I don't want it too far next to her. I want it over more. No, I want to be accommodating,
But the way you marked it up was on her side. When you sketched this out, you didn't have it.
Originally, because they said, where do you want it?
Yeah.
And the lady at the clerk's office said, draw a square of where you want this.
Okay.
And it has to be a minimum of 15 feet, no closer to the lot line. I said, okay, so I just stuck it there. I didn't know where to, I don't want to put it way in the very, very, very far back corner and just in the cornfields, you know what I mean? So.
Sure. Okay, then.
Yeah, I mean.
No more questions from me.
Thank you, Mr. Mickley. I'll let you go ahead, Mr. Storr. Okay. Does 50 feet seem reasonable to you?
50 feet from the north side?
From the lot, from the property line.
South side.
On the south side? Well, that would take it, 50 feet, and that's 40 wide, plus the.
You'd be too close to the north property line.
Yeah, it's gonna be on the complete.
Then maybe we're
southern
better
side.
off not doing it. Forget it, then we're better off not doing it, because if it's.
Is it even
It's
legal?
going to be 40, we said it's going to be 40 by 80.
No,
No, 40 by 60.
Related.
40 by 48.
Yes.
Okay.
Related. You can place reasonable conditions related to the variance.
But how is
only-
the location at all related to the variance? The variance is about
Yeah, so
height
it's not
and
related to the
size.
variance. So we can't
Plus,
do
we
what I'm saying.
have to be cognizant of the setback requirements on
Oh, I know.
on all
Yeah.
sides.
And this plan calls for setback far enough.
So
And while it is very nice of you to be accommodating to your neighbor, I don't think you're the lawyer, I don't think we have legal right to make that, because it's not related to the variance.
That would be pushing the envelope.
Yeah, no, then forget it. Then never mind that then.
Tim, should I just add one more question?
Please.
Are you planning to have like a path or driveway up to that?
Yes, sir.
pole barn from
Yes.
your house? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good question. Okay, is there anyone in the audience that has any comments about this project? Come on up, ma'am. You folks can have a seat for now.
Hi, I'm Sharon Perillo. I reside at 534 Town Line Road. I guess my question is, where is the driveway going to go?
Sorry.
Where is the driveway, your pathway
Yeah, right next to the garage.
to the garage, which is also on my side of the property? So that's why I was requesting that it be put more to the north side to avoid it being next to my property. That's all I was requesting. That's why I wanted it away from my property, because I didn't want the driveway close to my property.
Okay, and this is a separate driveway from the driveway to the house?
It would be an extension, and it would run along the side of his garage. I see that it is far back, but again, if you look at his original drawing, the building was going to be closer to my property. Because there was no site plan for it. It was just like a hand-drawn. So again, that's all I'm asking for, is it be closer to the north and farther away from my property.
Okay.
Okay?
All right,
Thank you very much. Excuse me.
You're most welcome.
I have a question for Matt. Matt, what is I'm sorry for not knowing this, and I should know this. What is the zoning code for putting a driveway next to a property line?
I have to look for a specific dimension in the AR district.
I thought it was like 5 feet.
I was say, I thought it was either 5 or 10 feet.
In the residential district, I know it's 5 feet. One moment, please.
Because it looks as if they were to attempt to put a driveway between, a continuation of the driveway around the side of the house, that might require, if that's the plan, that might require a different variance. And now I'm solely looking just at,
I'm seeing a dimension of 15 feet, similar to an accessory structure.
okay. I can't see that with this drawing, but I don't know if there's room to put a driveway going around the side of the house back to the proposed
Not a driveway.
boulevard. Okay, but that's, once again, that's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is the square footage and the height, which I have no further questions regarding square footage or height.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right, any other questions pop up? Okay, motion? Okay, I'll make the motion. Are you getting ready?
I was.
Go right ahead.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that this area variance for a single-family residence according to 617.5C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules, and Regulations is a type 2 action and has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore it is not subject to a secret review. That no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by granting the area variance relief sought. That no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought. That this benefit cannot be sought by the applicant by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought. That the requested area variance is not substantial because I believe 4 feet 2 inches in order to provide the proper pitch for snow not sticking for snow removal?
Ease of snow removal.
I believe 4 feet 2 inches is not, to create pitch, is not significant.
Right, this is for, yes, this is for size
And height.
and height.
So you're saying, then I don't
I'm saying
understand.
I don't find the height to be significant.
Okay,
Because.
that's what I need.
4 points, right.
Because the pitch for snow removal is needed in Buffalo.
Higher height, different pictures.
Okay.
A little punchy.
That the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. And this board is taking into consideration the benefit of the applicant if the variance relief sought is granted as weighted against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, and that with intent and purposes of this ordinance, this variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief, and that no commercial enterprise other than those permitted by Chapter 400 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster will be conducted on the premises.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, motion, Mr. Storr, and second, Mr. Robluski, and roll call vote whenever you're ready, please.
I'm so sorry, I'm still going back to the proposed area variance relief will not,
You're on,
is it the requested area variance relief is not substantial because 4 feet 2 inches in height is not,
4 feet 2 inches is reasonable to provide pitch needed for
Okay, is-
safety, snow safety,
reasonable?
snow not stickiness.
Provide
Just slope.
Slope, provide an adequate slope.
Thank you.
Do I need to read it all again?
Nope, I got it. Thank you. Mr. Mickley?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Mr. Robluski?
Yes.
Mr. Zelik?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes.
Adopted.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your variance is approved.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay?
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
You're welcome.
Do I end up doing anything? Plans into a driveway? Thank you.
Take care. Good luck.
Get away.
Okay, Diane, would you read us case number 4, please?
Thank you. The fourth case considered by the zoning board of appeals, that of petition of Dan Cepelli, 236 Ransom Road, Lancaster, New York, for 2 variances for the purpose of constructing a residential accessory structure on premises owned by the petitioner, 236 Ransom Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a residential accessory structure 16 feet 10 inches tall. Chapter 400 zoning Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum building height of an accessory structure of 16 feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 10-inch variance. A variance for the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a 1,792 square foot residential accessory structure. Chapter 400 zoning Section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a maximum size of a residential accessory structure of 1,250 square feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 542 square foot variance.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Dan Zappelli, 236 Ransom Road.
Okay. Tell us about your project, Mr. Zappelli.
Basically, there's a one-car garage there right now with a 8-foot add-on to it. Ain't worth fixing. More money to fix it than it's worth. So that's getting tore down. This is going there for just cold storage. Just my tractors, my equipment, side-by-side lawnmowers, stuff like that. Truck. Pretty much it. No concrete, no electric, no nothing.
All right. Okay, we're gonna start with Mr. Storr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have 300 foot of frontage and 3 acres?
No, I have 125 by 690.
No further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. And Mr. Tillmans?
You're not running like a commercial operation?
Nothing, no.
Talk about machinery and equipment, like what kind of machinery are you talking about?
One's a big cab tractor, one's a small cab, or no cab tractor, both farm tractors. Zero-turn lawnmower, side-by-side for hunting, quad for hunting, 1-ton dually to pull my trailers, 2 trailers that I use to move my equipment around. Like, basically, I put food plots in for myself for deer.
Okay. Gotcha. I have no further questions, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Oblewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no further questions.
Okay, and Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one question. In your notes here, you're saying the main purpose of the building was to clean up the clutter of the yard.
Yeah, everything's just sitting out because
I drove by.
I ain't putting it in there.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you have another structure, you said that's coming down?
Yes.
The garage? Okay. And is this going in the same place?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I have no further, what material is it?
Steel.
Steel?
Wooden poles, wooden struts, I guess they say, and wooden trusses, and then steel roof, steel sides.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Michaeli?
No questions, just one comment. I want to thank you for a part of your application, the way you answered it. Comment E is the question, was it self-created?
Oh, yeah.
You said yes, it was self-created by the amount of equipment and stuff.
Too many toys.
No one else answers that,
No.
Yeah.
honestly.
I noticed
So
that,
thank
too.
you for answering that.
Yeah, that was.
This is a rural area, you're only asking for a 10
inches.
inch in height, so this is, thank you, this is,
That's as low as I could go so I could get the tractor with the cab in it, so I couldn't go any lower.
yeah, thank you. That's all I have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Storr?
No questions.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions or comments?
Chair Monticelli, I do have a comment. We don't have an exact location of the building as it's related to this tax parcel. I'm looking at the county GS, and I'm identifying the addressed parcel where the house is as a 100 by 300 foot lot. We were provided a survey from 2007 that shows it to be 691 feet. As that property sits today, it's 2 tax parcels. We will issue a building permit for 236 Ransom Road only. The back lands are landlocked. It's not a building lot. Should anything I mean, we need a survey of 236 Ransom Road with a location of this building so that we can verify its compliance for setback and
Wasn't
separation
that on
from
the
existing
blueprints?
buildings.
Didn't she give it on the blueprints? It's 40 feet from the house and 20 feet from the property
I
line?
don't have that information with me, but only other than a survey that was provided to us.
Yeah, that's what it was when I bought it from my,
Right, again, it's a 2007 survey that shows it to be 690.
square, yeah, it just goes back a couple feet, a couple inches, whatever,
It
on
was
one side's a
done by
little longer.
Right, and what I have also attached on there is a GIS mapping that shows the actual lot at 100 by 300 feet.
125.
125 by 300, right, so there's a front half and a back half. The back half will not be issue a building permit for anything until.
It's not even gonna be close to that.
Okay, as long as we make that clear,
Yeah,
it's
it's
gonna
not
be
even
issued
close
to
to
that
that.
tax parcel.
It's gonna be probably, I'm guessing 70, 80 feet from the property line back there.
Do we need to make that a condition, Jennifer, if we,
Well, the application is for SBL ending in 18.2? Is that the front parcel?
That's the front parcel.
Then the application applies just to that front parcel.
okay,
And the rear parcel is not before you.
okay, all right. So we don't need to add the condition.
You do not.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, looks like there are none. Can we have a roll call vote, please? I'm sorry, we need a motion first.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Michaely.
Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings, that this area variance is for a single-family residence according to part 617.5 C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules, and Regulations. It is a type 2 action and has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore is not subject to a seeker review. That no undesirable change will be provided in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the variance relief sought, as the variance requested is minor. That no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance relief sought. That the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought. That the requested area variance relief is not substantial. That the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. That the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. That this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. That with the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief. And that no commercial enterprise other than those permitted by Chapter 400 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster be conducted on the premises.
Second. Thank you. Motion, Mr. Michaely, second, Mr. Storr. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Michaely?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Mr. Roblewski?
Yes.
Mr. Zeller?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, Mr. Zappelli, your variance has been granted. Just follow up with the building department.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, Diane, would you read us the fifth case, please?
Fifth case considered by the zoning board of appeals is that of the petition of Gary Metzger, 3333 Engle Road, Orchard Park, New York, for one variance for the purpose of installing a whole house generator on premises owned by Scott and Mary Ann Metzger at 2 Logan Lane, Lancaster, New York. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning section 15, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing a whole house generator 2.825 feet, or 2 feet 9 3/4 inches from the side property line. Chapter 400, zoning section 15, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires non-portable exterior heating or air conditioning structure and generators shall not be located within 5 feet of any lot line. The petitioner therefore requests a 2.175 foot or 2 foot, 2 1/4 inch variance.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Gary Metzger. I represent Scott and Mary Ann Metzger. I live at 33 Angle Road, Orchard Park. And my brother is very ill, and it would be life-threatening if he loses power for quite some time right now. And therefore, I am requesting the variance to put in the whole house generator. I don't think my sister-in-law would be able to start up a portable one if I decided to go that route. So that's why I'm here requesting the variance.
Thank you.
I don't know what, I know that 4 Logan, their neighbor, got the letter. My brother just got out of the hospital, and I didn't get a chance to speak to him today. So I don't know what the result was that. I know my sister-in-law did talk to them, and they were going to send in the variance or show up. So I don't know what happened there. So that was my request.
This is someone at 4 Logan, you said?
Pardon me?
Someone at 4 Logan?
Yeah, they only have the one neighbor on the one side, which is 4 Logan.
Okay.
The generator is going to be installed by Fry Electric, so it's a reputable contractor that's installing it, and that's why I'm requesting the variance. I realize that the property lines are very tight there. There's only, I believe there's 6'5" on one side, and I believe it's 6'3" on the other side. To put the generator in the back of the house, I would have to run, it would cost them a lot of money to put the utilities underground to get into his basement. So that was the reason that we picked it on the side. The side that we picked it on is because of the window regulations, and it is the closest to his actual electric box and the gas line. So that was the reason we picked that side.
All right.
And I believe you have a copy of the gen set. I believe I did for the package.
So you have a copy of what?
The actual generator that we're putting in there.
Oh, okay.
With the decibel levels in there.
Oh, okay. All right, Mr. Zelak, want to start us off tonight?
I was just trying to pull up my email. Thank you, Mayor Chair. Wasn't that the email we got from the neighbor?
Yes, from Mr. Liskowski.
And she was against it, correct?
So they did.
He.
Or he? My email's not loading up.
I got it right here.
You have a copy over here.
Do you want the other?
No, it was just, I was just verifying that the neighbor was opposed against it because of the exhaust being directed right to their window. I think we had a couple generators in the same area that we had problems with last year, correct?
Yes,
Same issue?
We've had this several times, and this neighbor is on Baldwin, not...
May I read the letter? Is that okay? Is that proper?
That would be
At this
great.
point, it's from Stephen Leskowski.
This is for Logan, the letter?
No, he's at 2 Logan Lane. You're 1 Logan, right?
No. 2 Logan.
Oh, he's at 3912 Bowen Road.
Who's where?
He's at 3912 Bowen Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I hereby go on record as opposing the granting of the 2.175-foot variance due to concerns for the production of noxious gases and noise from the generator, and request that the Chapter 400 zoning Section 15, subsection C be enforced. Signed, Stephen
That's from Bowen Road?
Leskowski. That's from 3912 Bowen
May I
Road.
make a
which-
comment about this?
Yeah.
The generator.
Mr. Liskowski was here in front of this board approximately 3 years ago, asking for a similar variance. And I looked back, the exact reason that he is opposing it was the exact same reason. If you want to look at a map, 3914 came in and said that they didn't want the noise or noxious gas. And he is quoting the exact same thing that 3914 said, and we gave a denial in his case. However, the difference is he is on the opposite side of your house.
Right.
And if 4 Logan, sir, in the back, by any chance, are you from 4 Logan?
No.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna see the bowling, we're on the other side now of,
Understood.
it wouldn't be on, it's on 4 Logan, that would be the neighbor. That it would be.
Okay. I just wanted to put that on the record that Mr. Laskowski was here looking for a exact same variance in this location. And, yeah.
So where is he in relation to petition?
This is Mr. Laskowski's house right here. Here was the petitioner. He wants to put the the Generac generator right there. And it would be on the opposite side of the house as him.
Gotcha.
So Mr. Laskowski wants to put it here.
Right.
And this individual did not like it.
Okay.
There was someone else. We had like 3 of them. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Mr. Michael.
I think we read, I think.
I was just
But
looking for the
He asked about the
email.
letter, and you read the letter, and,
I have no further questions.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification, John.
okay. All right, Mr. Michael, anything else?
So I'm not sure if you're aware, if your brother's aware, this may be the 5th or 6th application from within that development for the same thing, and they've all been denied. And the one at 3912 Bowen was the first one. There's been several others. I know that there are several in the development that have put their generators in the back. In fact, when I was driving around, I know of one, and then when I was driving around this week, I went around the loop behind your brother's place, and I could see another one. So there's been, I don't know how many, but several that have done it and put it in the rear. I know there's an additional expense in doing so. But just so you know, in case you didn't, that's been our record so far in these applications. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Storr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No further questions.
Okay, and Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of just going to talk about the same thing that Mr. Mikely talked about. You know, we've had several cases over the last couple of years in the same neighborhood, same thing, where they were attempting to put the generator in between the houses. And, you know, we did deny all those, just based on the proximity to the neighbors. You know, I just don't know if we can justify that going forward, so.
Okay, thank
So,
you,
thank
Mr.
you.
Tillmans. Mr. Oblewski?
I have no questions. I agree with that saying, we've been denying just because of the proximity between the houses. There is a way, I mean, it is going to be a little bit expensive to put it behind the house, but there is a way that the generator could be placed. But yeah, keeping with what we have been doing as policy, we have been denying a lot of those just because of how close they are.
No, he wouldn't be able to put it here. It would have to go there.
Okay.
If he were to put it behind the house.
Okay.
Because this property line is going to go right there. So
Oh, okay.
it would have to go in the back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oblewski. Yeah, I have the same concerns. Sir, not only has it been our habit to date to deny these because the neighbors were complaining, but I understand in this case, we haven't heard from 4 Logan. However, these houses are right on top of each other, and
How did they ever let them build them with just 6-foot?
That was going to be my question to him as soon as.
It's the HOA.
I think we had
that happen?
I think we had this discussion in one of the last cases, you know.
I think so.
Previous cases.
I think when they built it, they just never thought about this, about generators, or they didn't care about generators. If they did, they'd be 5 feet apart or more than that, so they'd be a little wider. In the past, someone else had brought up the fact of, well, if we put it over here, the HOA may have a problem with that. That's an HOA issue that I think the residents should really get together and talk to the HOA and see if that can be changed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate
Yeah.
that they let them build. I mean, I heard your previous cases.
Because it is by
5 foot
code.
for a
I mean,
driveway even, let alone
it's-
6 foot for a structure.
Okay, can we have a motion?
Audience? Audience?
I'm
Audience.
sorry. Do you have any questions regarding this case? Thank you. All right. Okay. Motion?
I can make a motion. Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster has made the following findings. This area variance for a single-family residence according to part 617.5 C, Section 18 of the New York State Codes, Rules and Regulations, Type 2 action, has been determined not to have significant impact on the environment, therefore, it is not subject to a secret review. That an undesirable change will be reduced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of area variance relief sought due to the proximity of neighboring residents. That a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Oh, sure, sorry about that.
Thank you.
That a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, again, due to the proximity to neighboring residents.
Thank you.
That the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought. That the requested area variance relief is substantial. That the proposed area variance relief will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. That the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. That this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance relief sought is granted or weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. That within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief. That the petitioner failed to carry the burden of establishing that strict compliance with the zoning ordinance would cause practical difficulties rendering the property unusable. That the denial of the variance does not deprive the petitioner of the ability to place the generator in another location.
Second.
Second. Mr. Wroblewski, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mike Lee.
Yes. We're voting to deny, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Storr.
No.
Mr. Tillmans.
Yes.
Mr. Wroblewski.
Yes.
Mr. Zeller.
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli.
Yes. All right.
Denied.
Thank you. One question, is the permit fee then refundable if it's denied or not?
No,
Doesn't.
because it's used to cover costs of publication.
Thank you.
Thank you, good luck.
Wishing the best for your brother.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Meeting closed. Okay, so I've got a question, Jennifer.
So, Matt.
No, I mean,
no.
sorry for the board. But specifically for Jennifer about John's
Must be upstairs.
wanting to add a condition. I thought we could do that. I mean, we are